What up, Toronto Raptor fans, the dedicated few up at this late hour. I am your host, Aidan Moss. I am alongside my compatriot, Keon Haddad. What's up, Keon?
How you doing?
We just watched the Utah Jazz somewhat easily beat up the Toronto Raptors 131-28. And I do say beat up because this was a front line of Vikings who invaded from the north, colonized Salt Lake City, invited the Toronto Raptors over for a game of basketball, and beat them up hard. We'll get into the details, but Keon, what were your general thoughts of the game?
I thought Freddie played obviously amazing today, but it just feels like the same old type of things. When the offense is clicking, the defense can't seem to get a stop, especially late in the game. And when the defense is clicking, the offense is struggling down the stretch like we saw against Phoenix. It's just frustrating, and you hope eventually it'll balance itself out, but we've been saying that all season. So it's just frustrating to watch how this team continues to find ways to lose when they're out rebounding their opponents by as much as they did tonight. I don't have the exact number, and I put up, I think it was around like 20 more shots than the Jazz did at one point, and it's hard to believe.
Just to fill in for the data, the Raptors were 50 for 110 shots. 27 more shots than Utah, who took 83. The Raptors had a total of 25 offensive rebounds to Utah's 13. Now, to be fair, like we saw what it was like the reality was, like the stats don't really tell the whole story, right? Like so many of those offensive rebounds and shots were like miss, grab, and so it wasn't like a complete controlling of the possession game like you would normally see with this differential. But Lou Zatzman, our faithful editor, also just made a quick, interesting point on Twitter saying that the two greatest field goal attempt differentials have been by us. The other one was 28 against Milwaukee and also a loss. So
was that this year?
That was this year, yeah. So field goal attempts, or more shot attempts, obviously not equating to a W, but it is interesting. Just like and like you said, it's a great way to put it. Finding ways to lose. We're running out of teams that we match up properly to. You know, like theoretically we should be matching up well to Phoenix, but we can't figure out Mikal Bridges off the dribble. We can't figure out Chris Paul or Aiden for that matter. And then and now with Utah, it's like they have a small backcourt. We should be able to contain them. They do have a lot of shooters, but they have this like large front court that we should be able to exploit on the offensive end. And instead, we play right into their hands, right? Like we are from at the very beginning. Walker Kessler has like 4 blocks in the first 5 minutes or something.
That was ridiculous.
It was crazy, and it was just basically like we were attacking, expecting for what typically works to work. It's like all of a sudden they were surprised that there were 3 6'11" dudes in the front court.
It's like they didn't even scout. It's like they weren't even expecting it.
Totally. And then it's like, what do you do when you play like when you have Kelly Olynyk as your small forward or your power forward? What do you do? It's like Alvin Williams said. It's like you make these guys move east to west. It's like lots of driving kicks, lots of ball movements, and we were just doing the same old one and done. Whereas Utah was doing the opposite. It was like bang, 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 corner 3, over and over again. So, yeah.
Utah was playing really well tonight. They were like, if you look at both the offense compared to each other in this game, Utah was passing the ball so crisp, so soundly. It looked like they were a connective unit out there tonight. And the Raptors just looked like the opposite. Like, it's a lot of ISO ball again. And, like, was it working at times? Yes. But, like, at the end of the day, when you're trying to get big-time possessions, big time scores on possessions where you need it. It's too one dimensional at the end of the day. Siakam, like we've been relying on him to score in these isolation sets, and he started off pretty rough. He was 0 for 7 in the first quarter. He turned it on a little bit as of late, but he fouls out. Freddie, he has triple double. He was the only player tonight who I can say played well in all facets of the game tonight. He was huge for us, like he's been huge for the whole road trip. But again, all season it's been we can't get all our guys clicking at the same time. As soon as Pascal or as soon as Fred is having his best stretch of the season, Pascal's having his worst stretch of the season. And it's been the story like that all season. And it's starting to get frustrating. And it's starting to you start to wonder as the trade deadline approaches what's going to happen. Bobby Webster was at the game, as Joshua pointed out. He was at the game. I saw on Twitter he was shaking his head a lot, and I don't blame him.
No, not at all. And yeah, I mean, it's true. I think like Pascal, another 40-minute, almost 40-minute game for him. He looks a little burnt. He was having, and the Raptors showed this with Orlando with that like front court length, that they really have a lot of trouble figuring out how to operate when they get past that first line of defense, right? And Pascal showed that a little bit this year, struggling when he's in a double team or he gets trapped, like making the correct pass. For a while there, he was figuring it out. Like he was making those concise passes. Tonight, he struggled with that. He struggled making decisions. Like there was that one travel that wasn't called late when suddenly the help came. He's not getting those contact fouls like I pointed out last game. And even tonight, like, he had a couple of like miscues just dribbling. But you know who played really well defensively for Utah? It was Mike Conley. I feel like he had hands everywhere. A couple of times he got Pascal on another transition. He got, I think, Precious to break up on a fast break. So that was just an aside. I was pretty impressed by that. And you're right. Like Precious gets healthy, OG gets injured. Gary's finally like kind of like stabilizing as a consistent producer. And then Scotty kind of disappears. He goes 7 for 23. And I think Scotty played a pretty good game. He had 14 rebounds. He worked his tail off like I do. But really, this comes down to the defensive end. What did you see on the defensive side that stuck out to you?
It's been a lot. It was a lot of overhelping today. And I feel like that's something we've seen, again, all season. Overhelping on drives, especially from players who shouldn't be overhelping on, like Mike Conley. Like, it's bad. It's bad. Wide open shooters like Markkanen. He got hot in the second quarter from the 3-point line. He hit some huge threes in the fourth quarter. I mean, and Walker Kessler was like absolutely dominating on the glass. Like you could look at the offensive rebounding advantage and the rebounding advantage as a whole. But if you watch the game and don't look at the stats, you could see that he was dominating the glass tonight. And he, couldn't even get a body on him, couldn't do anything. The Raptors looked like they've never faced a player like that before, just going right at him. I don't know how that could even happen, if I'm being honest. But defensively, it just looked like they were letting them go anywhere they wanted on the court, like letting them get right to their spots. And it's just so unbelievable to watch when they put up these great defensive games on this road trip against Sacramento, and they had a good one against Portland, and just watch them fall apart just games right after, like we've seen against the Warriors and the Jazz. Like at some point there has to be some consistency with the defense, and obviously the way this is going, the Raptors are not going to win many more games if it's going to keep going like this.
Yeah. And Alvin was all over this tonight. Like a lot of breakdowns on the perimeter. They could not seem to figure out the pick and roll. Like Clarkson and Conley were kind of getting wherever they wanted. Every time Beasley caught the ball or Abaji, they didn't have an immediate hand in their face. Like Boucher was late on a closeout. Gary would have his hand down. And at times they did play good defense, but just like you're saying, as a whole, systemically, they really struggled. They just, Precious got lost on a lot of reads. I think and that's excusable for a guy like Precious. Like if he he's really the one guy that we can rely on as a center or as a big to play in the pick and roll and as like a help side defender. But he's young and he hasn't played much in this kind of with this kind of responsibility. And it shows at times. Even like Kessler is just like very polished for his age, like knows where to be positionally. But yeah, the constant dribble penetration. And you have to, like you're saying, you have to ask yourself, like, is this a set of principles that Nurse has been like demanding for a period of time now that's just not working? Because like there just really isn't an excuse for allowing this much penetration all of the time. And that's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer that. I don't know. I don't know.
It's just crazy seeing the differences between all, like, against the Kings where they looked like a buzzsaw defensively, and then like just within a week, like it's
yeah,
crazy.
But that's, I mean, if you look at the Kings and you look at Portland, like what are the two, especially without Nurkic, what are the two things that they don't have, right? It's like front court size, and particularly like Sabonis is an aggro dude, but he's not like an aggro rim guy, right? And so like I think those are the few teams we do match up with. It's why we almost beat the Warriors too, is that like they don't really have that same threat. But we just melted like butter in the face of the size. And that has been an issue, you know, in the last couple of months against bigger teams, more physical teams.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's too bad. Any positives you want to extract? I think like Freddie did play one of his best games. He shot a little bit better. He was 4 for 9 from 3, most of them in the fourth quarter out of desperation. Triple double, 12 boards, which is impressive. He was passing the ball well. He was getting to the rim. Like, talk about not being affected by bigs. Like Freddie was at the rim nonstop, finishing under control, finishing at a high speed in and amongst trees. Like that. I've said this, I think, almost 3 games in a row now. Like that was one of the best games I've seen Freddie play.
Yeah, this might be his best game since he played Utah last year and had his first career triple-double. It's crazy to see. It's a thing with him. You're always going to live and you're going to die by Freddie. And so far, he's been great. He's been finishing around the rim, like you said, it's been well documented that he loves to go around the rim and take contested layups, and the fans don't like it. But today, he was going right at Kessler. He was going right at Markkanen, right at Olynyk, finishing strong around the rim. And he made a lot of, like, this game would not have been in the remotely close at the end without him. He was hitting 3 after 3 where you just needed a bucket, and he got it for you. And he was great all night. He was hustling. He was – I don't want to say, like, he wasn't great on defense. Like, he allowed dribble penetration like the whole rest of the team. But he got a steal. He got a block. He was getting the little – you know, when he's when he's on the center and he's going to swipe down, if you bring the ball down on him, he's not going to let
the best at it
go back up with it. Absolute best at it. But
yeah.
That's probably one of the only offensive positives we can look at, and it was the reason the Raptors scored 128. Other than Boucher, I know you talked about that before. Boucher had one of his most efficient games, but no.
Yeah, Boucher 7 for 9, 1 for 2 from 3, missed 2 free throws. We missed 8 free throws overall. I wanted to write about this, like Boucher not sitting in the corner on the weak side waiting to jack, but instead timing those cuts has been deadly. Like I think he got 3 of those tonight. He's been getting more of them lately and reducing his trebuchet 28% shooting from 3. And that's like really nice to see. But Matt Hogg put it here, worst bench in the NBA in the last 3 years. And it's true. Like another awful bench appearance from multiple dudes. And at weird times too, like you said, it doesn't feel like we scouted this team. Like I think Koloko should be there on the Kessler minutes, and instead, like we saw a lot of Thaddeus Young with Kessler, and it was just like he had no hope in hell. And if anything, like I'd want to play Thad and Koloko together because Thaddeus is best kind of outside of the paint, not as like the rim protector or whatever else. And especially on the offensive side, he's better outside the paint. Thad actually had, I think, how many did he get counted for? Yeah, he had 3 steals. Yeah, he had like 3 swipes all in that one quarter, which is like he played pretty good defense, but in the second half he struggled. And I think that would have been better to have Koloko there. Flynn, another meh appearance with 6 minutes. We got a Delano Banton sighting. And the one thing I like about Banton is to deploy him as a full court defender. Like I think we should be doing that more and throwing him at other teams' best guards and just making them work for like 6-7 minutes at a time. So I didn't mind seeing him there. He almost threw the ball away to Markkanen's chest, but got lucky. Other than that, not much. And then that was it. That's all we got from the bench. So it was pretty pathetic. No Wancho tonight either.
And I thought that the game kind of shifted there in the fourth quarter after the Raptors went up 1. Right, Thaddeus Young was in the game. Precious was on the bench, and Thad was probably the big man, checking Kessler, and he was struggled mightily. And that's when the game really shifted again after the Raptors got the momentum to start that quarter. I thought that was huge. I agree with you. I was actually went through my head when I was watching the game with Banton as a full court press guy on just the team's best guards. Like I feel like a lot of teams do that, and the Raptors have kind of lacked that. Like we saw it against Phoenix. Saben Lee, as soon as he checks into the game, is pressing Freddie full court.
Yeah,
right. And that was just a recent example. We've seen that all year, and I think that's probably his best role. He's just so lengthy and athletic that he'd probably be one of the best in that category if you think about it. But other than that, just the same thing we've seen all year. No scoring, no playmaking. It's a lot of just hustle from the bench from Boucher. And that's really what you're going to get. Yeah. And we were talking, I saw, and we were texting about this before, that maybe one of the guys we trade 3 for 1, just get some type of bench pieces, some type of assets that can turn into something off the bench and make this team deeper for the future. Because no matter what you do, there's no help coming from the inside. You got to trade for someone. You got to bring people in. We tried. They tried to bring in Otto Porter. That went how it went. Obviously, we know how that went. But this season, this is just they stand no chance. The starters have to play 40 minutes, or they stand no chance.
Yeah. Shout out to Saben Lee, by the way. He just got signed by Phoenix, so another 905er that makes an NBA roster. I think like if we let him go, let's say, but also I think commendable to the 905 that it continues to like pump out NBA talent or rehab NBA talent, however you want to call it. We can get to the trade talk. I do think, personnel wise, there have obviously been some mistakes. I know tonight, for example, Walker Kessler could have been drafted by the Raptors if they had not traded Thaddeus Young and the pick. Goran Dragic and the pick for Thaddeus Young and what turned out to be Christian Koloko. So I know that stings for a group of people. I also think Delano Banton was supposed to, him and or Malachi Flynn were supposed to play bigger roles this year. Like, I think there's a confidence with this executive team that we respect and we love, and like it got us Marc Gasol, it got us Serge Ibaka, it got us a lot of other they took Scotty Barnes. I guarantee you 90% of the people who are pissed off at our roster right now were also pissed off when we drafted Scotty Barnes over Suggs. So they've done a lot of stuff, but I think with that confidence comes a little bit of like, betting on yourself or betting on like what you're seeing. And sometimes that doesn't always prove true. So like you said, we signed Otto Porter Jr. If you go back into his last 5 years, he hasn't been healthy, but for the Golden State year. So that was a risk. Relying on Banton and Flynn to somehow fill out the backcourt of this team was a huge risk. and they obviously saw something that has just not manifested. So, yeah, it is what it is. Like we can be mad at executives all we want, but I do think that they thought about this in a calculated way and they miscalculated essentially.
Yeah, I agree. A team like Toronto that doesn't bring in like not a lot of free agent role players or free agents in general, but it's hard to fill out the bench and the role player pieces to this team. And like we've seen it in the past, a lot of the Raptors role players when they were winning 50 plus games were drafted, right? Players that were drafted or
Right.
players that were traded, unsung heroes. Um, so like they just don't have that anymore. They're not drafting Norman Powell in the second round. Instead, they're drafting Malachi Flynn 29th overall, and Desmond Bain is going 30th. Like they're not getting those steals anymore like they used to, and it clearly shows. I don't know. And Jesse here said, talking about Otto Porter, he probably was the only free agent that wanted to come play to Toronto. And in my opinion, that was a big free agent signing at the time. Like just because we haven't seen that. Like he was coming off a really good year playing with those guys in Golden State, and I thought he was going to be huge for us. Just veteran leader, good 3-point shooter, good defender. Like, what else do you want from a guy, right? They're like who you want to fill out your bench, and it's frustrating. And hindsight's always 2020. You can always look back at the draft and be like, oh, you could have this guy, should have this guy, right? But like, it's different at the time, and things change, and it's frustrating, but it's not unfixable just yet. I don't think it's unfixable. I think
No.
we just have to stay calm and we have to just watch it play out. And I think we'll be all right in the long term coming with the bench because I just trust this management a little too much maybe, but I still trust this management to get us what we need bench pieces wise because I know this isn't acceptable for Masai and Bobby either.
Definitely not. And maybe that's a good segue. I will say about the Precious thing quickly, like he didn't sub in until sub 5 minutes in the fourth. And I thought that very strange. Like other than the foul trouble early on, he was clearly the best counter we had to this Utah front court. And he was the only one scoring at the rim. Like almost ironically, right? Like he was the only, my brother and I were talking about it, was like, no one was pump faking on these guys early. And then Precious has a couple pump fakes. He draws some fouls. He misses all his free throws, whatever. But like, he played really well. And then we don't get him in until like 4.5 minutes left in the game. And by then you're right. Like it had already kind of slipped through our hands. So that was kind of a curious choice by Nurse.
I found that mind-boggling, honestly.
What's that?
I found that mind-boggling. How
I know.
He was sitting on the bench for that long. It's unbelievable.
I know. Maybe they're still monitoring his minutes. I don't know. But let's do Can-Am, and then we'll talk about the this personnel stuff in the trade deadline, and then we'll get out of here. Do the honors. Who's your Can-Am Taxman, Taxman of the night?
We'll give it to Freddie tonight. Second career triple-double, second career against Utah. They were talking. I always watch whatever the home broadcast is, and I was watching Utah. And right before the game, they were talking about how Fred, last time he played Utah, had his first career triple-double and how it's a game that he has circled on his calendar, waiting to play them again. And he had his second career triple-double, and he played great tonight. The Raptors' life, the Raptors' heart and soul today was trying to keep him in it as long as they could. So he deserves this honor.
100%. I said this in the Phoenix game. Like Freddie's role to me in this game is supplementary, or on this team is supplementary. And he saw tonight that he had to be the alpha dog because Pascal wasn't cutting it and Scotty was being shy early. And you saw him just like put his will on this game. And sometimes that comes with a lot of like collateral damage and a lot of like late jack shots. There was like none of that tonight. When they went in late. Other than that, he was like slicing and dicing this team, finding guys. Like he just had such a good game, like an efficient game for Freddie too. He played 37 minutes, which is like low for him, I'd say. Stealing a block. He had a couple of turnovers. Reffing was meh again tonight. We did a lot of complaining, but they missed a couple of calls. So shout out Freddie Van Vliet, our Can-Am Taxman of the night. I can't talk. I don't know.
Can-Am Tax
Anyway,
Player of the Night.
for all of you listeners, please go check out canamtax.com if you need an accountant. It's tax season. We all hate doing that stuff. And I bet you they can save you $1 or $2. So go check them out. Tell them Raptors Republic sent you, and maybe they'll hook you up. I don't know. Probably not, but it's worth a shot. Okay, player personnel. So trade deadline, we are 9 days away, I believe. 8.75. Where are you at now? We were talking about this a little before the show. Let's do a temperature check on who, what, and where.
OG, I think that's the big one, right? I think
that you want, you think?
Not that I want, but I think we'll get traded. If I were it's not like I want him to. I'm just looking at the rumors and everything.
Tell me what you want.
I want. It's tough, but I want the Raptors kind of to stay put. Inside, okay. I want them to stay put, but I don't want them. Here's what I don't want. I don't want them to trade somebody below their value because they think they have to. That's my fear. Okay, I don't want, and I think they know that, and they've done that in the past. They've done that with Kyle Lowry in 2021 in Tampa, right? All the way leading up to the deadline was he's going to get traded to Philly, to Miami, all that, right? He had his farewell in Tampa. We remember that game, saying bye to the camera in the hallway.
So weird.
So weird.
I forgot about that.
And all that it was, he talked in the post-game press conference, and he ended up staying, right? And he wasn't going to trade him for anything below his value. And instead, he waited till the offseason, and he got Precious Achiuwa, right? And that turns out great. I don't want him to, I saw something like the Knicks were the team that offered him 3 first-round picks for him. If those are 3 protected first-round picks and we're not getting any young players back, I don't know if that's the deal I want, to be honest, right? If they're protected first-round picks, that's not really moving the needle. That's not really adding players. I saw a comment. That's not really adding players for me that can help you in the near future. I would be interested to see if they did something like Portland did last year, where they traded CJ, but they didn't trade him for just draft capital, right? They traded for players that could help them in the immediate future as well. But yeah, the thing I want is to not trade anyone below their trade value. I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at it. I am almost kind of at the stay put part too. And I think Michael Grange wrote a good piece today kind of outlining what that would look like, and they can do it. They can re-sign Gary and Freddie. It puts a lot of pressure on them with, guys further down the line like OG, Pascal, and then Precious and Scotty. They're going to have to do some finagling. But here's the thing. I think, to your point, Freddie's value is certainly skyrocketing from these last 2 weeks. You want to talk about recency bias? I feel like somebody like the Clippers are going to be chomping at the bit seeing what they're seeing. So somebody might come hard and fast. And I think, if the price is so great, you can't resist, you got to do it. But I think if we re-sign Freddie and we re-sign Gary, these guys are not going to lose value. It's not going to be like a Bradley Beal or Dame situation where as soon as they sign these massive contracts, they're untradeable. In fact, having Freddie on that kind of security or having Gary on those longer term contracts could make them more valuable next year. And so I feel like something's not working. Clearly something has to change. But I think a good start would be having a real bench, real guys, real NBA veterans that you can throw out there and rely on to do some actual NBA shit for 10 to 20 minutes a game. And you integrate that with what we have now. And I think we have a very, very good team. I think what we're seeing is, you're saying, fatigue and injuries picking up or whatever else that's affecting these guys. But if we have, if we can back them up, and they can play early 30s, then I think, we have a better potential of winning these late games and these close games. So I've kind of gotten to a point where like I'm not trading anybody. If anybody I'm trading is like Boucher. I think there are probably teams out there that could use his hustle and bustle work ethic, and I think we could maybe get like a younger guy on an equal contract, and ideally a guard. So I'd be looking to trade him or anybody else on the bench for that matter. I would be willing to shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then other than that, if I really have to trade somebody and the price better be goddamn good, I'm trading Freddie. And I think it's just because I'm worried about giving him a max at his age and his size, et cetera, et cetera. And if Orlando comes to me with a Suggs and picks and maybe Cole Anthony, if we can get that, I think I'm doing it. I don't know.
I agree when you say that we don't have to trade him because you can trade him even when they sign extensions. I agree with that with Gary more than Fred because I feel like there's potential Fred falls off a cliff next year on a big contract and he reaches that Bradley Beal territory. There's potential. I'm not saying it can happen. Obviously, if I am on the boat as well, I was watching this game and it's bad when I'm watching Fred play the way he plays, and the only thing I'm thinking about is his trade value, right? And the Clippers have been interested, like they have been interested in every player from our championship team. So.
It's literally, sorry to interrupt, it's literally like, like, have you ever been to those bars where like the beer cost goes up and down based on like supply and demand? It's like you literally have like a meter on his head, like going up and down based on like turnover down, like 3-pointer, like up.
That's how it feels. That's only how I'm watching it in my mind, and it's weird. If Orlando comes to the Masai with Jalen Suggs and a pick, I think I would take that just like by itself.
Yeah, you throw in salary for something, but
salary, Terrence Ross coming back too. That'd be nice homecoming, or Gary Harris, something like that. I might take that. I'm not gonna lie, it would be fun too. Suggs and Scotty on the same team.
Yeah. And then, you got Suggs running point guard. He can't shoot worth a darn. Okay, we hope like you figure that out, but he can play defense. So him and Gary is a nice backcourt. It would be ugly. There's no question. But I'm just saying, like, if I don't really want to trade Fred, I don't think I still don't know. Like you, I'm just kind of going to sit back and see. I think, but if I am, it's like for a younger, longer term point guard. And I don't think the Clippers have anything worth offering, but we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like if he's going to get traded, it's going to have to be for a younger player. And maybe Terrence Mann is someone you look at, but I don't even know if that doesn't really move me,
No.
But that's like probably the most promising young player they would have.
It would have to be like a third team, and I don't know. I'm not going to construct that right now, but I'm sure it's out there. But yeah, so we'll see. Another tough loss tonight. Any final thoughts before we check out? Well, why don't we'll do a couple of questions. If anybody has questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we will sign out because I know it's 12 a.m. over there in Tirana.
It is late. I can't wait for them to get back home.
I bet. Okay, no questions. We got a game Friday. A must-win against the Houston Rockets. Is that right?
Rockets.
Yeah, a must-win. This could be the end. If we lose to Houston, everybody's tradable. Put them all up.
OG to the Knicks.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for us. Thanks for joining, Keon. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining all the listeners. We love you. Like us, subscribe. If you comment, it makes us seem like we're cooler than we actually are. So do that as well. And yeah, we will be back on Friday against the Houston Rockets. Ciao.